There was a time I lived in the dark, somewhere between the flames and shadows. I didn't care for myself. I was lost and angry. I hurt people. More than once, I hit rock bottom. And then something happened. The darkness began to recede. Transformative grace plucked me from living in the ashes of my own destruction. I now live in the light, and my calling is to share how to create beauty from destruction, how weakness becomes superpower, how to paint with ashes.
Hey, well, what's up, friends? Michael Beck here. Sorry, I'm a little rusty and forgot how to use this technology, but been away with the family on vacation, just spending time with Jesus and kids and grandkids. So grateful to be back in the like normal world and back in the digital world. And wanted to just jump on real quick, field any questions, comments, thoughts that you might have about painting with ashes. And I'm going to post a link to a most recent blog series that I started on the book, and share like a update, kind of joyful testimony. We've been starting to have, even actually right after the book was released, we started to have letters kind of starting to come from correctional facilities, and people from in the state of Florida and other places who are currently experiencing incarceration, starting to write about how someone sent them the book and how impactful that it was. And so over the course of the months that the book's been released, we've actually had more and more of these letters, people writing, asking questions, just giving encouragement, talking about how meaningful the book was and how they're going to look us up, find us when they get out and want to be involved in our ministry and those kind of testimonies. So that's really, really good and exciting and fun. And so I just wanted to share that kind of impact is getting out into the world. And just to bring everybody up to speed, I started a blog series on spiritual formation for wounded healers, which kind of integrates all of the different pieces of painting with ashes, but hopefully gives practical tools that, say you wanted to get together. Obviously you could do it just on your own, but I always encourage people to have a team in everything that they do, including our healing, and work through the resources. A lot of the stuff on there is free. There's a free assessment on there, free blog posts, free guidebooks, and all kind of things. So that's there just to make the book more usable, accessible, practical. But the reflection that I just posted there, recently had an opportunity to go and hear a presentation from some folks at Glow, Gloo. And they're a company that they kind of study technology, help churches use technology better. And so they had done some research recently on search words that people are putting in their, search bars, Googling things. And some of the words that have come up recently are around loneliness and isolation and prayer and trauma. So those have been some of the most popular searches. And one of the things that we've kind of noticed throughout COVID obviously accelerated the isolation and loneliness, the phenomenon of that was happening before the pandemic. And I've written 6 books previous to Painting with Ashes. Maybe it's 7, actually. I have to double check that. But in some way, each one has touched on this idea, this theme that isolation and loneliness are kind of an epidemic. And one of my passions for what we call fresh expressions or new Christian communities in my ministry has been seeing those kind of communities actually bring healing to people, where significant relationships can be formed. And it's in the context of relationships that we actually heal. And this is kind of challenging in our Western therapeutic modality, which is usually about, you go see the professional person and they walk you through a process. And one of the goals of therapy is like a healthy and well-defined ego, where you become a healthy kind of individual. You process and integrate your trauma and you become a stronger person through that. Great. Amazing. We need those people helping professions. We need therapists and spiritual directors. And as a pastor, I do that myself. People come and they want to talk about significant things in their life, and I try to walk them through that. All that's good, not dismissing that in any way, but it's just not enough. And one of the things that African culture brings to the table, which is just such a gift, is this idea of coming from a collectivistic mindset, that healing actually and humanity in general is we're communally formed people. So I've talked about this before, the phenomenon of Ubuntu, that we are persons through other persons. And whereas we typically think of ourselves as like an individual, and individuals act on systems, and the ego, the self is all a communally formed self is actually more accurate. It's more biblical, and it's just more true. We may think we're an individual, but we're really part of this complex kind of system, relationally speaking, environmentally speaking, spiritually speaking, in every other way. We're woven in together in this kind of tapestry of life. Thank you, Gina. There's my friend Gina. By the way, I forgot to ask, hey, where are y'all at? How are you? What are you doing? Please post in the comments. Please just don't let me talk for this whole 10 minutes. Fire away with questions. Tell me where you are, who you are, how you're doing. But so what if we could add, not necessarily do we have to subtract all those ideas about therapy and all of those things, but what if we could add a really important dimension to that, is that people need to have a community. They need to have a system of relationships that support their ongoing spiritual development. And so the new blog series is coming at like spiritual formation. Yes, but spiritual formation that's aimed at really the starting point of acknowledging our own fragmentation, our own need for like recovery, and that every single person is in recovery. And so this new series, I'm going to be walking through that. I posted the blog there. Please check it out, share it with friends. And hey, Lisa in Alabama, good to see you. God bless you. So I was going somewhere with all this, I promise. Okay, so adding in our healing process, yes, going to individuals, spiritual directors, all those things, very important. but creating a community of people that we can have that kind of a relationship where we articulate our trauma, our woundedness, our joys, our highs, our lows, our mountaintops, our valleys. When we articulate that in a community of love and forgiveness, we actually find healing. One of the interesting things is usually this individualistic only model. We go to the professional, we get healing, we take a medicine, whatever. Then we go back into the context of our family or relationships or community or whatever. And that all that work kind of unravels, and we default back into negative attitudes, behaviors such, or in the context of recovery from substances, for instance, usually people have a healing experience in a rehab, right? And we go to an inpatient rehab, and it kind of gets us on the right track. We detox and go through all those things. But then people enter back into their context of abuse and relationships. What happens there is that all kind of unravels, and we immediately go back to those old patterns of behavior. So we say you got to change people, places, things, one of those things. So why does that happen? You go to rehab, you're in a sterilized environment, you learn all these things. If you're like me, you become like the recovery guru, and you can like quote the books and everything. Then you go back out and immediately have relapse, because context and relationships are more powerful than any kind of internal thing, no matter how well we do it. When we're faced back into the power of a context, that can all unravel. So creating communities of love and forgiveness. And again, to use a recovery analogy here, like AA, NA, Celebrate Recovery, Christian 12-step, all these different really communally based healing modalities really understand this. So we get in a group of people, we articulate our pain, our trauma, our ongoing struggles. We find healing in the context of relationships, a shared journey. We walk through that. Now, AA was not the pioneer of that idea. The Church of Jesus Christ was, and essentially any other religious community is supposed to be a place where we can go and we can process that kind of life experience and find healing together. Sadly, one of the last places people in the world stop where they think, I'm going to go get healed, is a church. Sadly, and there's stereotypes we have to navigate and all that. But what if we could bring together this idea of creating communities? And what if churches, actually, followers of Jesus, could create those kind of communities that are what I call safe, accessible, real? They're accessible. They happen right where you do life, speaking a common language. They're close. They're safe in the sense of they're a place of inclusion where we withhold judgment. We just be together in our pain, and their community of healing and not harm. And then real, a place where we can actually articulate in a safe way what's going on. We could take the bandages off our wounds and share them with others, and then we all find kind of healing together through that. So I've seen some questions come in. Let me jump on those. How many communities do you think are important if we're already tied into family, friends, coworkers? I think that those communities, those relationships are very important. And I think you could actually take a group of people that you have a close-knit relationship with, and you could explore the ideas of painting with ashes, which is really moving from loss to surrender to redemption and then flourishing. But I think in some ways, you depending on the level of trauma or what the thing is that you're kind of dealing with and healing from, you almost need to create these alternative communities where you can really specifically focus on this. So, for example, I was just with my kids, my grandkids. We had a wonderful time. We spent time together. We had deep conversations. We were doing all that. But I'm not necessarily going to articulate with my close family, or maybe you have different family systems that I don't really have access to. But I'm not going to necessarily articulate my ongoing struggles or my pain points or the things that I'm wrestling through by the strength of the Lord. So having those communities where, like I always say, I don't know how other pastors do it. Like I go to an AA meeting and I say, hey, life's kind of hard right now. It kind of sucks. And everybody's like, yeah, I'm with you on that. And we could just talk about that, right? Because I have that alternate community that we've created together, where there's these tight-knit relationships where we know each other, we know each other's good, bad, ugly. There's that realness and that transparency. So then we can actually work on those things together. So I'm not sure if that helps, but I find just in my own life, and I can't speak as a generalization, but those kind of relationships and that kind of community is few and far between. And so we need to make an intentional effort, I think, to create those kind of communities. And hopefully you have a good church place that would be a great starting point. And if that kind of community doesn't exist in the church, maybe you can be that person that can bring it. And Gina's saying culture shock. Tell me more. I got lost in my thought process. So Gina, tell me what you're thinking about on that. And Lisa, it's very good to see you as always. And hope we see you at St. Mark soon. I'll be back Sunday. First time back in the pulpit. Hopefully I remember how to do that. So I'm about to get off this feed here, this live stream. So here's the link to the blog series. Would love to hear your thoughts, and we can also, communicate and have conversations on there. That's built in. Oh yeah. Okay. Thank you, Gina. I'm a little slow. My brain's a little foggy. I'm trying to catch up back to life. Going from rehab to the real life. That's part of it, right? So it's like the context of a rehab or inpatient place creates this kind of sterilized environment where we're safe. We don't have to really deal with the significant challenges, traumas at a really immersive and fully level. So then when we go back to the context of our life where we, in this example, became addicted or became alcoholics or whatever, all of those mechanisms that try to get built into us in rehab just fall apart if we don't find a community, right? So we have all these things that we say, and Painting with Ashes is not just about drug addiction, alcoholism. It's just universally helping people heal and become wounded healers. But obviously I default to that kind of thinking a lot. But we say 90 in 90 days, 90 meetings in 90 days. Well, the meetings aren't magic. You don't stay sober and clean by going to meetings. You stay clean and sober by forming relationships in a context of healing, and by working the 12 steps of the program, which is a spiritual process that takes us from powerlessness, unmanageability, coming to believe, turning faith over to a higher power, making an inventory, confessing those things to another person, asking God to remove the defects of character, making amends to all the people we've harmed and all the wrong that we've done in our life, and then continuing spiritual practices that move us into a spiritual awakening, right? So there's wisdom in that. Context is powerful. And so we can create community and alternative communities where we can actually find the kind of safety and accessibility and realness that we need in a relationship that can bring us healing. So Miss Lisa, yep, can't wait to see you all. It's weird. I've been the pastor of Wildwood UMC for a decade, and this will be my first Sunday as just the pastor of just St. Mark's United Methodist Church. And so a lot of changes and transitions. And one of the things that God's been dealing with us in our family has been preparing us for those kind of changes that have been on the horizon for us. But we're so excited to be back in the Ocala community, excited to see what God's going to do in that context, and excited to preach the word on Sunday. It's like a fire pent up in my bones. So, hey, thank you everybody for jumping in here. It was so good to see everybody, and thank you for commenting. Please check out the blog series. If you haven't had a chance to check out Painting with Ashes, please do that. Please, if you want to send copies to people that that are experiencing incarceration or their rehab, and there's some kind of obstacle to that, please let me know. That's part of why I created that book. And I hope that it could just get into more facilities, more when we're at our darkest moments in our life, right? And God can use really small things, right? A book, a word, a friendship, whatever, that can really, really have profound impact and change the trajectory of our lives. And oftentimes, just hearing that someone has walked this path and has made it through on the other side, and they have a testimony or a story about that, that can really, really change and bring healing to us. So thank you, everybody, for jumping in. Good to see you all, and look forward to seeing everybody in person. And thank you, Gina. Me too. Amen. And see you all soon. God bless. Have a good rest of your day.